Is the writing already on the wall in the Conservative leadership race? As the party works to validate a record number of memberships, frontrunner Pierre Poilievre may already be on his way to solidifying his path to victory. And while the number could change, the party is expecting more than 600,000 eligible voters. Of those numbers, Pierre Poilievre's campaign claims it has sold nearly 312,000 memberships. And Patrick Brown says his tally is upward of 150,000. Now, the race is not solely decided by memberships, but by points allocated in each of Canada's 338 ridings. So, distribution of where votes are coming from can be just as critical. And that's what candidate Jean Charest is banking on. He will only say he has recruited tens of thousands of members, but he does say he has the points he needs to win. So why does Jean Charest still think he has a path to victory? Let's find out. Joining me now is Conservative leadership candidate Jean Charest. Welcome to Question Period. Very good to have you in studio.
Thank you.
So let's start with the easy questions here. So Pierre Poilievre signed up more than 300,000 members. Patrick Brown says 150,000. And you've said tens of thousands. So can you give us a specific number?
Well, and you know, Mr. Poilievre, over 300,000, Mr. Brown, 150. There was 150 or 160. Plus, Joyce, there's other people who signed on. So at the rate it's going, we call it Pierre inflation in terms of recruiting members. I think he's recruited members in the state of Maine, in New Hampshire, if you're to follow his logic. And so our view is that the race is decided by points, not the number of members, because you can have 10,000 members in a riding, it's worth 100 points. And if you have 100 members in another riding, it's worth 100 points. It's 100 points per riding. We've based all our campaign on having a broad base of support across the country in all ridings, because that's the way the race was designed, so that whoever would win would have the broadest base of support across the country. And we're very confident of where we are right now. We feel very good. By the way, you noticed Mr. Poilievre has not said he's going to win on the first ballot. And you also know the history of these races. Whoever leads on the first ballot never wins the race, because they tend to just even out on the first ballot and not be anyone's second ballot support. So
unless they win on the first ballot.
Well, obviously. Which he's not saying, interestingly enough. But he keeps inflating the numbers. No one believes the numbers anymore.
So you
it's all about the points.
So wait, you don't believe the numbers that Mr. Poilievre or Mr. Brown came up with?
No one believes them anyway. I mean, if you look at the reaction from the media, caricatures, and I mean, everyone is mocking that, because the Pierre inflation on the numbers just proves that it's all spin. When in the end of the day, it's all about points in the ridings, and that's what we're feeling very confident about.
So let me ask you about uniting the caucus, because this past week, two more Conservative MPs switched and have decided to support Monsieur Poilievre. So it seems that he's got the biggest bulk of the caucus on his side. So is he the one that's uniting the party?
Well, it's not surprising. He is in caucus. I'm not in caucus right now. He is in caucus. And it is not surprising that members would naturally revolve around the person that they know who being in caucus. But we also know, Joyce, from other leadership races, that the number of members who offer support in caucus is not a determining factor. We've seen that time and time again, because at the end of the day, members will vote, and it's 100 points per riding. No matter how many members there are in a single riding, it means the total membership count is not directly connected to the number of points you get in each riding. And that's the campaign we've run, to be as broad-based as we could across the country, having representation in every single region. And we're very confident about our positioning right now.
I have another question about uniting the party. Patrick Brown said this week that if Mr. Poilievre wins, he will not run for the federal Conservative Party. Would you say the same thing as Mr. Brown? If Pierre Poilievre wins, are you in here to win the leadership, or to eventually, would you be prepared to run as an MP?
Well, that's a very good news, in the sense that it means Mr. Brown will be running for me when I become leader of the party. And I welcome that because he would be a great member of the team. And when I do win, I will work with all the other candidates so that we unite the caucus and prepare a vision. And by the way, we're in a minority government situation that can change very rapidly. So we're going to have to move very rapidly to be prepared for the next election campaign. And I'll be delighted to have all the candidates on that stage as running for me in the next campaign.
So would you run for Mr. Brown if he won?
I'm going to win this leadership race, and I will be delighted to work with all the other 5 candidates in this race. That's the only position that I can take as I look at the numbers, as I look at how this race has unfolded, the issues, Joyce. That is the only option in front of me right now. 600,000
members, they're going to have to sift through that. They're going to have
Yes.
to look at it. And there may be delays, 6 to 8 week delays. And do you think your party is going to be ready on September 10th to have this leadership convention with all the ballots counted, sent out, returned, and not too many, ballots that have to be thrown out?
There's 2 things that we've asked, and the 5 candidates are asking, except Mr. Poilievre. One is that we need an interim list on an urgent basis. I mean, that's the whole point of the campaign. If we don't have access to the list of members so that we can campaign, reach them, and persuade them, then what's the point? And so this is going to pose a very serious issue for the party, because if they don't have the ability to give us a list in a reasonable period of time, they're going to have to look at extending the date of the 10th of September. I'm sorry, otherwise, what's the point of having a race if we can't have access to the list?
I have one last question. So, do you want another debate? I know that
Sure.
there's several of your of these contenders that want to debate. You want another one?
We've had, 2 official party debates, one in Edmonton, one in Laval, Quebec, and I think a third debate would serve us well, would serve the membership of the party very well. There's 5 out of 6 candidates who have agreed that should be the case. The only one who seems to be refusing is Pierre Poilievre. You have to wonder why. Why would Mr. Poilievre not say, sure, let's have another debate, let's be transparent? If we want more freedom to choose, I guess, doesn't it make sense that we allow the members to hear what we have to say? I think so.
That decision rests with the party. They
Yes.
will decide that.
Yeah.
Have they told you that this is going to happen, that there's a likelihood that this will happen?
We're waiting for the decision. The idea of doing a third debate was raised early in the campaign, and it sort of stayed there. I'm sure the media would enjoy a third debate also.
Sure. Without probably without a sad trombone, maybe that would be a good one.
That would be very good.
Jean Charest, thanks so much for this.
Thank you very much.